In a galaxy far, far away, in an alternate universe in that galaxy far, far away, Colin Trevorrow made episode 9 and everyone loved it and it was great. Probably not. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Resistance Broadcast. I'm John. Thanks so much for joining us today. We have a fun show for you today. We have One with the Force. We're bringing that back this week. And we also are going to have a discussion about Colin Trevorrow and the script you may have heard about that's been making the rounds. First drafts, final drafts, Jack Thorne. Who the heck knows what's going on? But we're going to dive into it as much as we can and give our takes on all that. But we also have a special guest with us, James and Lacey, with me as always. And joining us is John Roca, who is now from the Outlaw Nation YouTube channel. How's it going, John? Welcome back.
It's good. It's going good. I'm glad to be back. I enjoyed myself the last time we were on here. If I remember correctly, it's been a bit. And I did. It was a fun conversation. I think there were some right after the Rian Johnson stuff. We weren't sure what's going to happen with him. I think a lot of that was going on. The last time I was on. And I might still be proven right that he'll never finish that trilogy. So we'll see how that's going to go down. But that was one of the big predictions I made at the time, that I thought he was not going to finish that thing.
Yeah, we had a lot of talks, I remember, about Kathleen Kennedy, her new contract, whether she'd be around after episode 9. Currently, she still is. But I don't know. The future is certainly hazy, as Yoda puts it in so many words. But James, Lacey, you guys ready to talk about Trevorrow and all that good stuff later?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's such a crazy situation where I think everybody is just trying to wrap their heads around what's real, what's not, and trying to make heads or tails of that script or multiple scripts, who knows. But I'm glad Roka's back on the show and we're talking about the future of Lucasfilm with him once again.
I know I've been the minority too, so this is going to be a fun conversation on so many things. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Oh, right. am I talking?
Agrees. Yeah, you can say hi to everybody or do whatever you want to do.
No, I agree with James. I think it's crazy. And the weird part is kind of off camera, right before we started, we were talking about how there are so many different versions of this script that we were like, you read 1, did you read 2? Did you read 3? I read 3. No, you didn't read 3? Okay. Right. Mm-hmm. So who knows what we're going to discuss? Because I think we've all read different versions.
Yeah.
So we'll compare.
Yeah. And, I guess the idea is to just try to give our takes on it in general and then hopefully just move on past it, because it's one of those things where nothing's changing anything and it's more of a what could have been. And rumors obviously take over and it'll get to the point where people are going to think that his filmed version is going to show up on the Blu-ray or something. So it's just insane. But let's have some fun before that. James, we got One with the Force. Always a good time. So where's our buddy Baze Malbus?
The Force is with me, and I'm one with the Force.
Baze, it's been a while since we've seen you, man. It's also been a little bit of time since we've done One with the Force. Now, if you are new to the show, this is a segment where we're going to run through a couple different situations, and each situation is going to have one answer that you're allowed to give, and then we'll just go person to person to person and give the one answer to each situation. So the first one that we have here is kind of a scenario. Star Wars has always been funny, a big part of its charm through the years. The Rise of Skywalker has its share of comedic moments. So what's the funniest moment in the movie to you? And since you're a guest, Roka, what's the funniest moment? What's your One with the Force answer?
Don't make me go first, because you're not going to like my answer. You don't going to like my answer, and especially Lacey won't like my answer. That's for sure.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
All right, fine. It's when Kylo dies. That was funny. And the whole place erupted into laughter at a press screening that I was at the El Capitan, because a lot of the Reylo shippers were cheering like crazy, and then as soon as he passed, then everyone kind of burst out in laughter. So unintentionally funny, for sure.
It is funny, though. The way it happens is kind of comical, because you're like, wait, what just happened?
Right. You're just like, wait, was this for jokes? He goes, boom. Done.
The kiss of death.
Yeah, literally. Right.
Yeah. That's funny, too, because Lacey had seen it earlier than I had. And in the actual, my first time viewing, they kiss, and then they're sitting there looking at each other, and Lacey goes, "Don't cheer yet. I was like,
You said that to him?
she said that out loud.
That's terrible.
And I was like, oh, so I guess maybe he like dies or something right here.
Boo.
I don't remember saying that.
Yeah.
Did she do the hand thing like hang on?
I don't know. It was over here. It came out of her mouth.
Boy.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
And I know it was her because no one else would have known that, right?
You know what's funny, James? I had a buffer, right? I wasn't next to you, was I? Or was I?
You were on my right.
I was just being a good person.
And then we
James.
switched.
yeah.
The next
That's
show.
because they kissed, and some girl, like to our right in the front, was
Yeah.
like, hooray! And
Yeah,
that's
there were a
what-
couple
don't
clappers
cheer
and stuff
you.
like Rocco was saying. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, let's
that
go
is
with John. What's your funniest moment?
It's still, and I know it's very quick, but I laughed out loud even at my fourth showing is when Poe does the doink with the flashlight after Rey lights up her lightsaber.
Okay.
It's very Looney Tunes. It's very funny to me. It's I don't know. It just makes me laugh, and it's silly, and it reminds me that sometimes Star Wars can be silly, and it's a good thing. So. So far, always and forever, the doink flashlight from Poe Dameron gets me laughing. So that one.
Lacey, what would be your one for funniest moment?
So John's was my number one, but my number two is when C-3PO holds hands with Poe. When they're having that like
He just-
emotional "we're in this together" moment, and Poe
Yeah.
has this look because I'm not a hugger. So the moment that Poe's like, okay, all right, like that's what I would have done in that scenario. So I just
True.
find it so funny.
Right.
Just to be clear, too, you said that John's was your favorite as well. So
That's-
you
I'm
two
sure it was
thought,
John Hughes. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm sure it wasn't mine.
I'm just teasing.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, John Hope's favorite is my favorite. No, not Roka's.
You got to make that
Although
clear.
James' story is now my favorite because I don't even remember saying that.
I think there's some pretty good ones, but I think one that really stands out to me is, and it's quick. It's kind of like a blink if you miss it. I think probably people who've only seen the movie once might not remember this, but there's a line where somebody mentions Babu Frick and C-3PO goes, "My oldest friend." And
Yeah.
it's like, if you even heard that line, you would have had to hear the setup for the joke earlier and put the two together. It's kind of a subsequent viewing joke. But I think that's probably like one of my favorites because every time he says it, I think it's hilarious because C-3PO clearly has only had this friend for the existence of his life. You know,
It's his only memory right now.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's
So
just
Babu
further
Frick could
back.
be he could be like a horrible friend to him, but because he's his only friend, he's his best friend by default.
He's like, "Hi, I'm Born," and he's like, "Hi, I'm Babu Frick."
Right. Yeah.
So good. All right. Next one we got on the list is Star Wars plans on starting new film sagas with brand new characters. If they venture into the Old Republic, let's say, who is one actor or actress you'd want to see cast for that era of films? John, let's go ahead and start with you. John Hoey, that is.
You guys know my answer. Sean Bean.
Really? Oh, yeah.
He tweeted about it.
Ned Stark, man. And but he can't die in like the first 10 minutes like he does in almost everything else. So I loved him in GoldenEye. I love him in Lord of the Rings, even though I'm not a big Lord of the Rings fan. Obviously love him in Game of Thrones. He knows how to work in that era. He's done it sort of in that medieval style of storytelling a couple times. I think he'd fit right in, and I think it'd be cool to see him slamming a lightsaber around or something like that. So Sean Bean.
All right. Lacey, you got a good answer for this? What do you got?
My pick would be Saoirse Ronan. She's amazing. She's a great actress. She knows how to play emotional and tough, and I think she would be a really badass Jedi.
She's Lovely Bones, that girl?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a good actress.
Brooklyn. She's in Little Women. Up for an Oscar again.
Yeah.
What's the bird? She has another bird movie. What's it? A bird?
Lady Bird?
Lady Bird.
Lady
That's
Bird.
it.
Yep.
Ladybird,
Yeah.
Now, are you saying like Jedi or it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter. I love Jedi, so I said Jedi, but it could be anything. She's just great.
Yeah,
Everything she does.
right on.
John, what do you got?
I mean, not to kind of cheat a little bit, but I'd have two. I would say Idris Elba I would love to him bring some of that Luther energy into this Knights of the Old Republic stuff. I mean, by Luther, I mean like he's just a confident badass, because sometimes he gets cast in these roles, he doesn't get to show that energy, and it's frustrating as hell when you watch it because you know he's capable of doing so much more.
Like Cats.
And the other one, yeah, like Cats. Oh god, that's the funniest moment of
Taylor Swift is your second one, right?
Taylor Swift, yeah, absolutely. I mean, never mind. Florence Pugh would be the other one. I think Florence Pugh, in the tradition of Daisy Ridley, could be one of these young actresses that steps in and carries the franchise into a new trilogy. That woman can do no wrong and has certainly succeeded in multiple genres of films. You know, you go from professional wrestler to something like Little Women to something like Black Widow. You've even seen Lady Macbeth. You know, there's so many different things that she's been capable of doing. Plus, it's also in that grand tradition of casting English actors in Star Wars, and it would be fantastic to see her. She is English, right? Isn't she British? I think she's British. If not, it's still.
I
grand
thought
tradition.
so too.
I
Yeah.
think so too. But I have to say, I watched that wrestling movie on a plane.
Yeah.
I was straight up sobbing. She's so good in that movie.
Wait, is that the where she plays Paige or whatever?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
Yep.
Now, why didn't they, not to get off of Star Wars here, why didn't they just get, what's her name, to play herself? No?
Paige?
Yeah.
Well, because you have to play her through the stages. And
Yeah.
also,
all right.
also Paige has a lot of injuries from wrestling, so she couldn't do the stuff in the ring.
Oh, that makes sense. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Back to
that
Star
movie
Wars.
that movie is so good, though. So good.
Yeah.
I got to see it.
Plus, if you can make money of them telling your own story without having to be in your own story, why not?
You know what?
Yeah.
You're
Just
right.
give them some home videos, call it a day.
Yeah, exactly.
Do I make the same amount of money if I don't star in it? That's it.
You make more.
So mine is probably an eye roll answer a little bit, but it was the first one that I thought of just right off the top, and that would be Joaquin Phoenix. And I know necessarily that he doesn't quite fit with Star Wars maybe, but the thing is like if I see on StarWars.com that Joaquin Phoenix is going to be in a Star Wars movie, I get excited because I don't really think I've ever seen a Joaquin Phoenix movie where he wasn't amazing. Like
I thought you were going to say Keanu Reeves. I really thought that's what you were going to say.
Oh, no. But
Why is it an
mean,
eye roll,
like,
though, then, James?
Because I think it's a topical answer. Like it's just like
He's about to win the Oscar for Best
because
Actor.
Joker, yeah. But I mean, like, of course he's good in Joker, and we all know that. But like, I've been a fan of him for so long, even going back as being like one of the few people where I live who would like take the effort to go see Her. You know,
Right. Yeah.
and what was there was another one that I was thinking of that was like.
Walk the
I
Line?
was gonna say that I was bummed when he wasn't Doctor Strange. Like I was so excited for that he was very possibly going to be Doctor Strange. And as much as I love Benedict Cumberbatch and the role, and I think it's good, I still think that Joaquin Phoenix would have done better just because he's that good and I'm that big of a fan. So, but yeah, man, could you imagine like a gladiator type villain?
James, you should Photoshop a lightsaber over the baseball bat and signs and just swing away, Meryl.
Yeah. Hey, that's another one for me too. I love that movie.
I like it
know
too.
some people
Yeah,
are
sounds
like
good.
hit or miss on it, but
I like it till the end.
see, I like the end too. Yeah. All right, here we got a couple more questions. Let's see. Name a character that was not in The Rise of Skywalker that you wish made an appearance. So, let's see. What did I do? I went John and then Roka or Lacey and then Roka. Let's go Lacey first.
I really wanted to see Ewan McGregor, Kenobi. I really wanted to see him at the end. He spoke in TFA. I wanted to see him at the end of this movie. I wanted to see a lot of Jedi at the end of this movie. I wanted the fan servicey Jedi moment that we didn't get. I'm okay with how they did it. I just wish Ewan was in it.
All right. Roka, you got a character that you wish maybe made an appearance in the movie?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. It's a little frustrating for me that we didn't see Hayden come back as Anakin. I would have loved to have seen Hayden come back as Anakin, kind of close that loop, and have him do his thing one way or another, and have the fans like finally 100% like just kind of close that loop of forgiveness and move on from it, you know, because obviously he's been to these conventions. He was taken care of when he went to Star Wars land. So to have him come back and be an integral part of what's, especially if you're going to bring the Emperor back, for God's sakes, why wouldn't you bring back Anakin and have Anakin go like, damn it, I didn't finish the job, something like that. It would have been interesting to talk to Kylo through the helmet or whatever. It would have been interesting to see that, and then also maybe even have him and Luke. I mean, how much would you have been blown away by seeing Luke standing next to his father with Leia in that last shot or whatever? Like, it just would have been incredible to see all that for me.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
It's a good answer. Yeah. John, what do you got?
So I'm going with the theme here because we're knocking off all these voices that we heard but didn't see. Tweaking Lacey's pick. I'm taking Lacey's pick, but kind of tweaking it for myself here. I wanted to see a creation of Alec Guinness using, Force Ghost, using your CGI, like maybe voiced by Steven Stanton, doing his perfect Alec Guinness impression like you just said, Force Ghost at the end. Maybe just to see Obi-Wan. He's the first Jedi we ever saw in Star Wars. That would be a nice bookend to me to actually see Alec Guinness's appearance one more time, not necessarily doing a lot like Tarkin in Rogue One or anything, but just seeing him again with Yoda, kind of mirroring the Return of the Jedi end, I think would have been cool to see, and also getting another gig for Stanton.
Yeah. Well, I think like if I had a big answer, it probably would be Anakin, but honestly, when I did read this question, I started thinking about the Kaz's and the Heras and stuff like that. And one that really stuck out to me that I thought would have been really cool, and believe me, I'm well aware nobody would have got it, but I would have liked to see Nora Wexley standing right next to Wedge Antilles. Like, I think the two of them like co-piloting a ship, and people would have been like, oh, that's Wedge, there he is. And for anybody that has been reading, for instance, Resistance Reborn, one of the major lead-up books into this movie, about how important it is that Wedge and Nora said they weren't going to move forward in the fight, but they were going to help their son. And there was so much there with like Snap Wexley dies, and then like the very next scene you see Wedge Antilles there, basically his father, but his mom should be there. Like, why is she not right next to him? Yeah. And I know he's in the Falcon and so they did that whole thing, but that would have blown my nerd brain, I think, a little bit. I wanted those little cameos, but we got one more question, so let's move past that.
This is going to be brutal.
It's 5 years after the fall of the Empire, and you're an assassin instructed to kill either Princess Leia or Baby Yoda. If you don't kill one, they both will be killed. So which one do you kill?
Wow.
I hate to do this to you, Roka. But the rotation has landed you first on this one.
You got to isolate this clip and tweet it out and everything.
Since I'm a Deadpool fan, I'd say you kill the baby first, like you did in Deadpool with Baby Hitler in the deleted scenes. But you can always have another Baby Yoda. You're not going to have another Princess Leia or General Leia. So that she's too important to the entire resistance to kill her. I can handle the guilt of killing Baby Yoda. I couldn't handle the guilt of killing Princess Leia or General Leia, depending on when I'm supposed to kill her. So, yeah, I would absolutely kill Baby Yoda. And, I always get Babu Frick in the deal, so it's all right. I can recover from that with the cute meter with Babu Frick.
That's true. Replacement, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, John Hoey, what you got? Who are you killing?
Leia.
You killing Leia?
Yeah, the Skywalkers they're troublemakers. Let's be honest. This whole thing This whole thing is because of all this family. Like, none of this conflict happens without this family. So let's get rid of the matriarch and go from there.
All right, Lacey, tie break this.
I can't believe this is a question. I would kill Baby Yoda.
Oh. There's the audio clip right there.
And I would quickly get killed by Mando so fast I'd be dead. Yeah. But just like Roka said, Leia is too important to the cause. There are too many things that come back to her. There are too many people she's inspired. The whole end of the Rise of Skywalker, whether you want to say, oh, it was Lando, it was definitely because of Leia that all these people came together. And I think they pretty much say that. So, yeah, she births Kylo Ren, but still, she's very important to the cause. So I couldn't kill her. So I'm sorry, Baby Yoda. I'm a terrible person.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. I came into this saying I was going to say I'd kill Baby Yoda. But I started thinking about the fact that technically the Baby Yoda is 50 years old, which means he's lived a longer life and still has so many more years ahead of him. Mm-hmm. And then I think about all the problems that the humans have caused. And I think about all the problems that Yoda's species has caused, which 3 for 3, they're looking pretty great and very inspirational, powerful light side characters. I think that all in all, Baby Yoda would probably have the more potential to bring greater good to the galaxy than Leia, wherever she is in her life, just the tail end of her life, not being there. So I'm with John, unfortunately. I gotta go kill Leia on this one.
James, you and I can just, whoever hires us to or gives us this ultimatum, once they leave, seeing the job done, have little Baby Yoda waddle over and heal Leia and bring her back to life. And then everyone's alive.
You can't cheat like that.
Just
what is with you and cheating lately?
It's
canon.
canon.
All the questions.
It's canon. It's canon.
Wait,
Leia
who are
can't
the two
heal
guys?
people.
Who are those 2 guys that they were going to put in the movie in Solo?
Tag and Bink.
Yeah, that's what you guys are, Tag and Bink. You guys would never...
Roka, they cheated on our last one. They were like, you can have one Force character, one something. And so both of them pick 3 Force characters. One is their pilot, one is their Force.
Yeah.
They cheated.
Yeah, that's why there are those 2 guys. That's what they're Tag and Bink.
You said the rules was you get 1 Jedi. I picked Rey. She's all the Jedi.
Right.
That's been established, right?
Only in her mind. Yeah.
All right, well, that's it for One with the Force. We all gave our answers, and now we're getting ready to head into the discussion section where we're going to talk Colin Trevorrow and all that stuff. So, John, what's the discussion?
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
All right, guys. Colin Trevorrow, you know him. He takes over mega decade-old movie franchises and just makes them better. So,
No, he doesn't.
How dare you?
So his story for Star Wars Episode 9, in an alternate universe perhaps far, far away, where Colin Trevorrow isn't fired, exists his Episode 9, his conclusion to the Skywalker episodic saga. Early drafts and final drafts of his story for the film have been magically leaked somehow. And if you haven't checked it out yet, you can check it out at Star Wars News Net. We do a full breakdown that Chris did over there. He did a great job breaking that down. There's also a lot of videos, and everyone's giving their take on it and that sort of thing. So if you haven't seen it yet, you're not on the internet. That's pretty much the bottom line. But it breaks everything down on what Trevorrow's initial plans were for the film before he got axed. We've all read it. We've all heard everything here. So now it's time for us to talk about it. So my initial thoughts on this thing, it's always dangerous when this type of thing comes out because it's never going to help what exists currently. Everyone likes to do the old, especially if you don't like something. So people didn't like Episode 9. They want to latch onto this thing and say, this would have been better. And you see that floating around and stuff like that. I don't know how this would work. A lot of it reads like a EU to me. Mortis was a very interesting take, and I don't know how fandom would have reacted to Kylo going full bad. Although that was something I was interested in, but him killing Rey's parents doesn't line up age-wise to me. So there's a lot of mystery there, and then the issues with like Poe's homeworld and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm not I point to Colin Trevorrow with like his direction and stuff like that. Like the CGI in the Jurassic World movies didn't look that good to me. I wouldn't have trusted him handling a Star Wars movie, even with the backing of ILM. So that's where I'm starting off. So, John Roca, you're our guest. So why don't you give us your initial thoughts on what you've seen from these versions of the scripts and stuff like that? And then let's just have an open chat, try to let everyone, make their points, but, just have a discussion about it. So what do you say, John?
My first reaction was this. When I read it, first of all, it's Robert Meyer Burnett breaking this down, which is so ironic. A Star Trek guy breaking down a Star Wars script. Very interesting on so many levels. But him breaking it, 2-hour video, which was mind blowing to me. I know Robert can talk, but to get that deep into this stuff was pretty incredible. But there's such an anger underneath the release of this, the leak of this, that I didn't truck with. Now, I'm not an episode 9 necessarily fan. I think there are good things in the movie, and I think there are some bad things that I really couldn't get past to enjoy the film. But that being said, I agree with you, John. I think this kind of stuff is dangerous or can be dangerous when it's put in the hands of irresponsible fans, not responsible fans. I think responsible fans like us can have a discussion, an open discussion about it, and see what would have worked, what would have not worked. But you also come back to Trevorrow, and you see the last 2 films he did are terrible. So you're like, well, it would not have. It doesn't mean that it would have necessarily translated into a great movie or a better episode 9. Mm-hmm. Who knows how he would have fumbled the ball? There's a possibility there, and also there's 3 ways a movie's made: the writing, the shooting, then the editing. So who knows what we would have really ended up with from where we started? Because you can also pitch episode 9 and it sounds badass. I'm bringing the Emperor back, and he's in the unknown regions. He's got this whole legion that nobody knows about, and they're going to be the final order. They're going to wipe everybody out. Leia dies, but she connects with her son before she dies one more time and brings him back, and all. So you can pitch it that way too. So to me, I really enjoyed a lot of what was in the script, for sure. I thoroughly enjoyed the fact that, yes, Kylo goes full evil. That's what I wanted. I think once Rey turns him down in that throne room, there's no coming back for Kylo, in my opinion. So I would have liked that. You throw in him killing this former master of Palpatine. That's interesting. After he trains with him, Han Solo still comes back. All of that was fun. You get Rose having more of an active participation in this. They steal a Star Destroyer, which has never been done. So there's a lot of positive things that I enjoyed about the script overall. But in the long run, do I think Trevorrow would have done an excellent job with episode 9? No, I actually don't feel that way. So this is fun to talk about. I just think it shouldn't give ammunition to people who didn't like episode 9 to be bashing people who did and saying, see, it would have been a better movie.
Right.
I'm actually glad you said that too, because that was one of my first takeaways. Like, even before I started the script, I was like, no matter what this ends up being, if it's good, it's very easy to say, like, well, I would have had Luke Skywalker stand on a mountain, and then he would have, you know what I mean? You could come up with this crazy stuff, but it all is about the execution of what you actually film, and how it's all edited together and how everything comes together. Because I'm sure there's probably things in the original J.J. Abrams script that when you actually get into the nitty gritty of putting this thing together, you go, you know what, it was cool on paper. It's not really working here. So we have to change it up just a little bit. Like, I think one of these things said that Kylo was supposed to go to Vader's castle, and for whatever reason, it wasn't really working. So they just made him grab it out of this box because that's the only way the story could have moved forward. That's the best they could do with what they had, You
mean Abrams' story?
Yes. Yeah. So it's like even things that like would have maybe shown up in a script and would like, hey, we have this really cool idea about Kylo going back to Vader's castle, right? It's still, didn't make it into that cut. And there's a lot of things probably in this script that we could say, maybe that might not have even been in the finished movie. There's so many different versions of this script. Lacey was talking about before we started, but I want to hear her take on that, because there's like a ton of people just saying different things, like, oh, here's this version of this script. Here's the third draft of that. Here's the final one, but that was rewritten by Jack Thorne, and just, it's all over the place. Lacey, you were saying something?
Yeah. So the one I read is the one that was written before Carrie passed away. That's the one I read. That's the one everyone's been talking about, and they wrote all those crazy clickbaity articles about it. That's the one that I initially read. I know there's ones that are after that, but that's what's in my head right now. Overall, it was interesting. This kind of stuff's always interesting to me, to see where people are going to take characters that we like and we don't like and stuff like that. I think that, like you guys have been saying, it's very easy as fans to say, oh, well, they should have done this. I have to say, one of the most frustrating things since The Rise of Skywalker has come out has been seeing fans assume that they know better for these characters than the people that have created them. And, look, I'm not happy with what happened to Ben Solo. I've been pretty vocal about that. However, it's not my character. It's JJ's character. JJ created him. JJ took him to where he wanted to take him. However, weird part too, after I read this script, I actually liked bad, evil, angry Kylo better than half and half Kylo.
Yes!
Because Rise of Skywalker Kylo felt very rushed to redemption, and I'd rather have it either all good or all bad. I don't want this bad. Oh, one moment has decided he's now a good guy and he doesn't talk for the rest of the movie. If he's going to go bad, make him go full bad. Yeah, make him like blind Rey and be evil and have metal in his face and like yeah, do it. Adam would have killed that. Adam would have done an amazing job with that. So I was actually not mad at that part. I like that they go to Coruscant because James and I always talk about how much we like Coruscant. John does not like Coruscant.
We also, me and Lacey had this kind of behind the scenes dialogue about how cool it would have been if Rise of Skywalker ended with a big Rey versus Kylo battle on the like ruins of the Jedi Temple, like inside and stuff like that. And it's like, that could have been really cool. And it's kind of listed here a little bit, you know.
And it would have made sense to bring back the old Jedis to be part of that too.
Right, that they're there. Absolutely. So I loved the idea of Coruscant. I also really liked the idea of Ghost Luke haunting Kylo. I brought this up months ago, and I know James hated it. He hated it.
I can't stand that. It's an SNL skit.
But the funniest thing is when I read the script, I was like, is Colin in my house? Because I literally said these things out loud on the podcast of like him being very trolly, being like, oh, this is where you're going, that type of thing. Stuff that I didn't like. Let me think. Kylo Ren fighting Darth Vader. Why? I get it. You want to bring Darth Vader in.
Yeah, I think it's cool. Yeah.
I actually liked Chewie being in an X-Wing. I thought that was kind of cool.
Get out of here.
I thought it was kind of weird. Like, okay. And then, but then again, I love weird stuff. Like the baby head that's in concept art in the book now.
Yeah.
Baby head's a thing. Rey having a double-sided lightsaber was cool. I didn't like Rey questioning the Force again. I feel like we did that with Last Jedi, so she needed to be like fully invested. I feel like this script took Rey in a direction that Kylo Ren was taken in The Rise of Skywalker, where they're trying to figure out where he's going. Like, and she was very like, I'm going to do the right thing. This one, he was like, I'm evil. And then she was like, I don't know what I want to do. So that's how I got it. But overall, it was all right. I liked what we got, though, with the exception of Ben Solo.
You know, my two biggest gripes, I guess, now that you're ringing things in my head, because I read these things a couple times and I watched a chunk of that Burnett video.
Right.
And then I read some of the stuff Jason Ward did with the final draft that he read in some secret room somewhere. I don't know. But
Area 51.
Rey, like using the Force lightning, but she's nobody, and she's the dark and the light, and it's like,
oh yeah, that was confusing.
I don't like this version of the balance of the Force. I know it's a very Mortis thing and it resides there, but like to me, George Lucas's whole thing about balance of the Force, and he was pretty clear about it, was that balance of the Force means destroying the Sith and destroying evil and getting rid of the antagonism in the Force. So this whole new thing that you need to have balance and that she's living with both the dark and the light to preserve balance doesn't jive well for an end of a Star Wars saga to me. Because if kids are looking up to Rey as the new Luke Skywalker and the new hero, you're telling kids you need to be a little evil and a little good, and then you're going to be all set. Like,
yeah, like
you know, I have a 1-year-old.
You got to kill people.
Or sometimes you got to kill, but like James has a 2-year-old, I have a 1-year-old. Like, I'm not going to tell my kid, like, you can take that ketchup and just squirt it all over the wall over there as long as you take your nap later. It's like, no.
Yeah.
We're not squirting the ketchup. We're not balancing the dark and the light. So that's where I'm at. So it's and also the friendship part. I didn't vibe like Rise of Skywalker. My favorite part was Rey, Finn, and Poe in the pocket as friends. That's why maybe I love this movie that I haven't heard many complaints about, is those three look like they were close and they were friends, and JJ pulled that off to me. Yeah. I don't see that in Trevorrow's script at all. I see...
No, they're split up.
Again, they're adding more Rose in, which, I don't think that's necessarily a great thing when you're trying to put these three characters forward. You have Finn and Poe together sometimes. You have Rey in here, over there. They still feel kind of scattered. I like that JJ put them together and made it an adventure film, a little bit like an Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade type of thing. So call me a Kasdan simplist, but I like that aspect of it. And Trevorrow's story felt really cold to me and almost more sci-fi than a space fantasy adventure type thing. So, yeah.
What about the Poe and Rey romance?
That's not bad.
I wouldn't have liked that.
No,
because I don't think that. To me, I don't think that makes sense. I think that's a cop out because, because. Of course, the dashing pilot with the leader of the screw that shit. If she's gonna be from nobody and we're gonna keep that going, which is what Trevorrow's script does, then she can't fall into the cliche types in any situation, or else it loses its power, in my opinion.
It seemed like it was one-sided though. Like Poe really liked her, and then she tricked him by kissing him to use the Jedi mind trick. So it was one-sided, but still I get what you're saying. Like, why does he have to like her? Why does it have to be? Right. If people are going to be like, what is the girl at the end? Why does she have to be Lando's daughter? If that's kind of, which is an episode 9 thing. I know it's not in Trevorrow's script, but like this kind of thing where you have to connect everybody. I think if you're going to be consistent about wanting to break the bonds of the old way of doing things, which is what I sensed they were initially trying to do with this trilogy, to have her be with Poe is so obvious. And Poe has had no inclinations towards her the entire trilogy. He meets her halfway through episode 9 and then goes, or a quarter of the way through episode 9 and then goes, oh yeah, I think this is the one. That just would be all kinds of weird to me. Whereas you get a great romance with Leia and Solo because that builds from episode 1 all the way through. And so the consummation of it in episode 3, and Return of the Jedi rather, is worth it. And so this kind of situation, I don't think it would have been as powerful. And I don't think the Rey Finn thing would have worked either. I mean, that's friend zone to a T. Nothing would have done.
That's a good point. And I just felt like, even with JJ's story, and Raylos will say that the romance was established since the first one. I didn't see it that way, but that aside, I felt like JJ, and even in Trevorrow's story, you felt that there was a struggle to make romance happen somewhere because Star Wars needs romance. So they're like, well, Kylo's full bad, so Poe, you're it. Ding, ding, ding. You're gonna kiss Rey, and that's gonna be our romance, and that'll be that. That's how it kind of felt to me.
And it's interesting too, because you could say that ultimately kind of fell on Ryan, who, all the obvious romances didn't happen in his movie, but Ryan also did try to throw in a little bit of a starter with his own idea of who would be the romantic connection in this movie.
Rose and Finn.
Rose and Finn. Yeah. So he developed that as like, hey, they don't like each other at the beginning of the movie. They learn each other, and by the end of it, there's a connection there. But again, that's a different discussion, because I don't consider Rose to be one of the main three. Right. The big three that is, to me, kind of a trope of Star Wars. You have your Han, Luke, and Leia, and then you have your Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme. And I don't know. That's just kind of my opinion on that. But I
think that's.
But I don't know, Roka. Where are you at as far as like we had discussed that this particular piece is easy to say? Well, it would have been better. But like Lacey was kind of going through on one by one specific things. Is there things that maybe you think were better in Trevorrow's script, or ultimately like JJ handled it better than what Trevorrow wrote?
Well, I like the Mustafar stuff a lot in Trevorrow's script. I think that makes sense for him to go there. And I mean, because that's what he's been doing, is essentially tracing his grandfather's life. So it makes sense that he would go to there, try to find some connection, some kind of strength, some kind of force there, and to like live in the evil, right? Because that's when Vader is ultimately the most evil, is in Mustafar. So that's where he was created in essence. That's where his energy is the strongest in terms of Sith and evilness. And so it makes sense for him to try to consume that, because, and this is the thing at the end of the day, and I I may risk whatever I'm risking here, but Kylo to me,
you're always risking, Roka.
I know that's kind of my thing. That's kind of my thing. But when I knock it out of the park, I really get a lot of results. So the thing for me is with Kylo, I think and listen, Adam Driver was incredible playing this part, and I'm really upset that people try to denigrate Daisy, what she did as well. Daisy is just as good as Adam with what she was given. It's just different stuff. Adam was the journey. Daisy was the straightforward journey. Adam was the difficult journey. So that's why he naturally feels like he shines more, but they were equal. But what Adam Driver did with this character is incredible. But I would have liked to have seen something more solid. I hear what Lacey's saying. Lacey's absolutely right. The half and half stuff just irritates the piss out of you because there's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing all of us hate more than indecision, even within ourselves. We hate when we're indecisive. We hate when people are indecisive on the road, in the grocery store, in whatever. We just hate indecisive people. It just doesn't feel right. And to see him like not sure which way he's going to go, still 3 movies in, he's not sure where he stands. It's super frustrating. So to have seen him be connected to Mustafar and with the coffin and everything like that, that would have been fun for me to see, honestly, overall. And I liked what they did with the saber, with Luke's saber, her turning into a double lightsaber. I thought that was badass, and that could have been fun to explore. I think JJ had it's a weird thing, and this is probably a longer discussion for another time, but I just think JJ had a lot of pressure on him to do certain things, and I think they fan serviced a bit too much for a lot of people's taste, certainly for mine. And then they had to make these storylines work in a certain way, and they kind of just shoved them together. And to me, overall, it felt like a report you get, and you know you're handing it in. You're like, I just hope I get a B minus. I just want to get a B minus. Like you're just like, maybe they'll forgive me for a couple of the.
Just let me get by this. Yes.
Yes, let me get by this. And it feels like JJ did that. And the fact that when he got asked about it, he said, "Well, the critics are right," and that kind of stuff. It lets you know that he couldn't 100% maybe do what he wanted to do, but he did the best he could with what he had.
I thought it should have been 2 movies. Watching it multiple times, I was like, this could easily be 2 movies.
They considered it. They did.
It could be split into 2 parts. Yeah. You would have gotten a full story on each side. I could have gotten my full Ben Solo arc of him going from bad to good. It just seemed everything was just rushed. We talk about that a lot. Like you couldn't go to the bathroom. You just had to go and like watch and watch and watch and watch. So I would have taken a 3-hour movie over 2 movies. I would have taken 2 movies. I
think that's weird. Episode 9, Part A.
I'm not saying Part A and
9 and 10.
I'm saying 9 and 10.
Yeah. And that would have been an incredible surprise at the end of 9 if they go to be continued in episode.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, like you're watching it, you're like, man, I'm 2 hours into this, and then like, it doesn't seem like it's wrapping soon.
Right.
But seriously, like when we watched,
they would call they'd call it a money grab though, and then Disney Bob Iger would be under fire for it.
No,
who cares if 9 was good? Nobody would give a shit.
They did it with Twilight and Harry Potter and Hunger Games.
Yeah.
That all 3 of those did it.
They announced that ahead of time, so yes.
It's just one of those things that, like, especially with Kylo Ren, I went into the first screening thinking I was getting one thing, which is natural of any fan. He was really bad. Like he's chopping dudes' heads off, throwing them on tables. He's killing people left and right. I remember saying out loud, "Oh, he's bad." But I was like, okay, I'm in it. Okay, he's a bad guy. Got it. Moving forward. And then halfway through the movie, I'm like, wait, what? And then he just dies. So that's why. I'm
gonna be honest, I didn't see this going this way, Lacey. It's like your biggest complaint is that Kylo Ren is a good guy.
Yeah.
So, but I'm saying with this script specifically, my number one was that if you're gonna make him a bad guy, go for it. Don't do this half in, half out.
That's fair. But yeah, I also think Vader's turn is obviously very rushed in Return of the Jedi. Like literally, he was just fighting his son, and then he threw the Emperor down the chasm.
Really? Wow.
I feel like Anakin's turn was very quick in Revenge of the Sith.
Yes.
So to say that Leia used all her might to reach her son one last time and it worked, and then the memory of Han, that's fine.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I'd prefer if I had more time.
I mean, seeing Kylo with a mangled face would have been awesome because it would have been upset so many people.
I just think, like, especially Adam Driver, he's just so good when he's yelling and screaming and just super in it. Like, imagine what he would have done with this role if he was like the bad guy.
Like if it's Marriage Story, but he's like okay with everything. He's like, okay.
him and Rey are having a marriage story fight.
Yeah, exactly. I will definitely get down with that idea that of the 3 turns that we've had, by far, Kylo Ren's is the most set up.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, because, you see it in the first movie. You definitely see it in the second movie. And then the third movie, they go through with it. So whenever I hear somebody say that his turn was rushed, it still kind of catches me off guard. I'm like, how, you need a 4th movie?
Rushed in the sense of, okay,
But I
clarify.
understand what you're saying, splitting the last one into, if you're going to do it.
Rushed in the sense of, there's no explanation of said turn. He does not talk for the second half of the movie.
Right.
Except to say, ow. So in Anakin and Vader's turn, you have that moment of him explaining to Obi-Wan, this is it, I have to kill you. Vader, you have him saying, Luke, you were right. Your sister was right. This is exactly what I wanted. Kylo says nothing. He just dies.
Yeah. Nice kiss, girl.
I
would push back on John, though. I think Vader's turn is well done in Jedi. There are shots of him looking back and forth. There are shots of him when Luke is beating him. That is him, like, not being as Vader as possible because the heart is starting to come out. So I think you can read into that what you want, but I've always felt like that turn
Picking
made
him up on
sense to me.
Endor, he stands there like, it's too late.
I was going to say, I'm not on your side, John, but if I was on your side, I would more stick with the Endor conversation of the 2 of them saying,
it's too late for me,
I think
son.
there's good in you.
Yes.
And he's like,
right, when they're walking, yes.
It's too far. Yeah,
but that's
thing.
when it starts to move.
All right, well, John,
what
about this then, John? What about the part where he's weaponizing Leia to lure Luke out? That's still pretty evil at the very end there.
Well, so, of course he is, because he's not 100% committed yet.
Okay,
it is until
all right.
he sees Luke in actual close to death. And by the way, when I was a kid and I saw that for the first time, that scene felt interminable. Like, save him already. It felt like forever.
Yep.
Now, of course, it doesn't feel as long because I'm older. But like when I was younger, it was just screaming inside my head, save him already, save him already. When he does, it's such a satisfying moment. And I don't think the Kylo thing to me could have been done better, the turn. And it does, and James, it does feel rushed to me. It does feel like they just decided we got to redeem him somehow.
Well,
let's do it like this. Because what Leia could have contacted him throughout the 3 movies.
Sure.
And so if she was able to do that, she could have done it at any point through the 3 movies. Do that right at the end. By the way, right when he's about to kill Rey. By the way, he defeats Rey. That's kind of huge.
Yeah.
He defeats her. He is going to kill Rey.
And
so
he
for
needed
all this
to.
talk about Rey and the Palpatine and all this kind of stuff, she got beat by him.
Yeah.
That's massive.
Well, isn't the flip like now back to? It's funny, like I guess this is telling about Trevorrow when we're talking about Return of the Jedi, and we're supposed to be talking about Trevorrow's script. We can care less about his script. His turn in Trevorrow's thing, it does. I read it like 3 times. I'm like, wait, what happens? He's like, oh, never mind, and then he just dies.
Yeah, I didn't like that either.
Like that's lame too.
What?
Like in Trevorrow's thing, with the way he dies is very like confusing to me because it almost seems like he's still full bad and he's like, I'm taking all of Rey's powers. Then like Leia reaches out to him and he's like, never mind. I'll give them back. And then he dies. Like that was weak to me too.
Yeah, but the way it's written could be the scene you get in The Rise of Skywalker where she says Ben and that's all it takes for him to look around.
Right.
And then for him at the end to give his
Which I don't
power
care
to
who
Rey.
you are. That part is awesome.
Okay, I'm not saying it's not good, but I'm saying that written on paper doesn't portray the emotion that you get when you watch it.
No, I know. I just, Lacey, me more than anyone, like Roka, I was all about let Kylo be full bad now that he killed Snoke.
I think my biggest gripe is he doesn't talk.
That's fair.
I mean, I agree. It is
doesn't
weird.
talk.
It is weird he doesn't talk. Yeah, I do agree with that. That is kind of strange. He does the shrug thing. He does and he says ow once, and then...
And people have pointed out that, like, it looks like the shot of him dying is in reverse and, like, all this other stuff. Like, it's weird. It's very weird because his hair, gravity doesn't do that.
Maybe that's why he turned to the dark because he's so socially awkward. When he's Ben Solo, he just doesn't talk to anybody.
I'd love to know.
No, because then he runs in with his Han swagger and then he doesn't say anything.
Swagger, he's like,
Right,
bang,
right.
bang.
He is. He's Han Solo for like the last 3 minutes of the movie, and then he says nothing, not even one word of like, see you around, kid, or I don't know, something. He says nothing.
He's wearing his college shirt. I like that. It's his little Henley.
Old Navy Henley.
So
yeah.
can I change the dialogue here and go with something?
I'm for Trevorrow's bad Kylo
it
if it means
is.
I don't get not talking Kylo, if that makes sense.
I also don't like Trevorrow blowing up R2D2, but I'll leave that there.
I did not like that. Nope.
All right, James, go ahead. What do you got?
The longer I have sat with Rise of Skywalker, I still do have some hangups on the way Palpatine was used, in the sense of like, we went into the movie saying they're bringing Palpatine back. Can't wait to hear how they're making that happen, how they're going to explain him coming back. And they just straight up don't. And in the use of making him the main villain, you have, in a way, and I can understand it from many different perspectives, but you've kind of turned the Skywalker saga into the Palpatine saga. And in Trevorrow's script, that's not a problem. They address him. It's all part of the story, the bigger story. But I do feel like Trevorrow's script wraps up the direction that the Skywalkers end with Ben Solo, that character, and it embraces the Rey from nowhere, which is fine. She doesn't have to be a Skywalker for this to be a Skywalker story. But I'm still not quite sitting 100% on the Palpatine stuff in The Rise of Skywalker. And I will say Trevorrow's script, good or bad, clearly solves that problem.
Yeah.
And calls back a lot to TFA.
It's not the Palpatine saga in his movie.
Yeah, it calls a lot back to TFA and The Last Jedi. Like, there's nothing in that script that isn't a clear callback to other things. Whereas The Last Jedi has moments that you're like, oh, yes, I get that. But then you're like, what about all these things that happened in The Last Jedi?
That was the frustrating part about Rise of Skywalker. I couldn't tell. And I know I've seen some people defend it, and some people have defended with what. But I feel like, in my instinctual feeling as I was walking out of there, is like, they really took a crap on Last Jedi, and I just didn't like it. I didn't like that at all. And I wasn't the biggest fan of the first 45 minutes of Last Jedi. I've always said that. Everything after that is maybe the best Star Wars movie I've ever seen in my entire life. But that first 45, I couldn't do it. But still, it's a continuation. So to push Rose in the back, to say all this other stuff that they did, to not explain how Palpatine comes back, was a massive problem for me. We still never know why Ben left. We never know why Ben got upset. Well, we don't know how Snoke got in touch with him. We never see any of that. And so there's just too much of it that wasn't explained. And then with the Last Jedi stuff, there's too much of it that they don't keep going forward with it. Because I liked Rey. Actually, I came around on Rey not having parents that were part of the Skywalker saga, because a lot of us don't have these famous parents, and we fight to make our own name in the world and to be seen in a certain way. And we can decide at that point, especially if you're an orphan, you can decide at that point, it's more powerful for her to take the Skywalker name if she's a nobody, because then she's saying, I've earned this mantle, and I will proudly take this mantle and carry it on forward and teach and do whatever. I think it would have been more powerful than if she said, I reject Palpatine, and now I'm a Skywalker. For me personally, so.
I think
that story gets across. I know you're saying she's rejecting Palpatine to accept Skywalker, but I still think she's writing her own story and accepting the Skywalker name. I think she is carving that path. But I think, I don't know.
If I'm being honest, I think Abrams definitely had a plan for her to not be a nobody. And Ryan took choices that are in The Last Jedi, not just the whole, my parents were nobody and blah, blah, blah. Like her on the island with Luke, going straight to the dark. Her instincts were dark, dark, dark. If she was, so JJ's like, all right, well, if I'm going to go back to what my plan was to make her somebody and make her not a nobody, I can't make her a Kenobi now. I can't make her this now. Kenobi wouldn't have gone straight to the dark like that and had those dark side tendencies. So he's like, what makes sense here? I think there was always this thing in Kathleen Kennedy's head that she wanted Palpatine to be involved somehow, if you believe what Chris Terrio's saying. So maybe he's like, well, she went straight to the dark in The Last Jedi. We don't want her to be a nobody. Which way does that point to? And let's bring back an iteration of Palpatine. And you know what? I get the need for explanations. They're going to make books for it. They're already doing the comic for Kylo Ren to explain how he turned and what Snoke might be. And Snoke's already saying my name wasn't Snoke, and they're trying to fill those gaps. But the backstory culture today now, thanks to ironically thanks to the prequels. I don't know that I need that. Like, if you want to just tell me, here's this kid, he was Han and Leia's son, he turned evil. I'm like, all right, let's go. It's like Darth Vader. Like, would I have cared? Like, why did he become this or something?
But Vader was already that. The difference between him and Kylo is Vader was already that from the beginning.
But when we saw Kylo, wasn't he?
Yeah, but then he struggled with it every movie. So
and then you see it with him and Han, and then him and Leia. He couldn't kill her.
But do we need everyone's backstory? You know what I mean?
Yes.
No, but your main characters would be all right. It wouldn't be a negative to have some backstory.
Who's
to the main
Snoke?
characters.
Like, I don't.
But to answer,
can I say something for Lacey real quick? Lacey, what you said about it feeling like two movies, you're absolutely, or feeling like you're absolutely right. And I think this was JJ trying to show you what he would have done with the second installment, and then doing the third installment. So to me, I think the biggest mistake. I know people go, "Oh, it didn't have a plan. Didn't have a plan." No, the biggest mistake to me in this whole trilogy is the fact that JJ didn't do all three films. That is really the number one thing for me, because then you've got one cohesive narrative told by one person the whole time.
That's fair.
It should have been one writer, three different directors. One writer for all three.
That's absolutely fine.
And keep Kasdan involved for all three, please.
Sure.
I thought this, we haven't actually talked. I know it's been a while, but we've been doing the Poe and the Finn. We haven't really talked Rise of Skywalker a whole lot on the show. And I think one of the big takeaways is that no matter what side you're on of The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker and all this other stuff, I think just as a fandom, we all kind of collectively do recognize that I wish there would have been an overarching story. And that they would have figured that out, because no matter what page we're on, we do kind of admit that either that movie or this movie or the three together, something doesn't quite jive, and it's okay, it's good, and we can find it and we can enjoy it, but at the same time we're all recognizing, like the prequels, we love these. They're not great, but we learn to like them and we figure out the stories within our fandom. But it would have been nice if the prequels were written and directed by maybe somebody, just kind of get into those details. This is the same thing. Like, maybe the fault of this one is written and directed by good people, but not really a cohesive story. So it kind of crumbles somewhere in the middle and tries to reconcile itself.
James, I think that's a good point. I do think kids now, like little kids now who may be watching this for the first time or whatever, or kids who take on this trilogy in 10 years when they get into Star Wars, when they watch it, it may be able to be more cohesive for them because they didn't have all the speculation and the wondering of what's going on. And when I go back and watch TFA now, I can like you look at a painting, like say like, okay, now I could see how that could be this, or how she can be that, or that this can be that. And so, there are also fans who are going to be like, yeah, J.J. Abrams duct taped a banana to the wall and called it art. Like, I get that. But I think there's a certain thing when time passes, like you say, people are going to think, yeah, this is more cohesive because all the drama of who wrote this, who wrote that's going to be gone. Like, kids today who watch the original trilogy have no idea who Richard Marquand is, or like Irvin Kershner. Right. There's like, that's the Star Wars trilogy. So I think over time it will age well, as you're right in that way, James. But I think from different perspectives based on certain generations.
I like the idea of fans having like a problem with like the original scripts to Star Wars. Like, we could have had Mace Windu.
You're right. Yeah, right.
Like, they're so mad. Like, George Lucas ruined it.
It was wild. Leia wasn't even his sister till the first draft of Return of the Jedi. It's just like lunacy. It's crazy. Yeah. But all right. So let's go around and give our last quick thoughts on Trevorrow's story. Anything that you maybe think that they should have kept, or just your general thoughts. And I'll start with Lacey. Your last final thoughts on Trevorrow, and then we can never talk about it again.
My final thoughts are, I didn't hate it. There were things I liked about it, but then again, there are things I like about everything, I'm happy with what we got about certain people. I'm not happy about Ben Solo. I thought that this one was a better way to take him, but that's it. Yes.
That's all right.
That's- Oh, and he worked in Palpatine better because Palpatine was in a holocron and not some like zombie vacuum cleaner Segway guy.
Okay. Fair. All right. James, last thoughts on Trevorrow?
I think just kind of like how Robert Meyer Burnett originally pitched the thing, is he said, I don't think anybody's, at Disney's going to care about this, because at the end of the day, this is just like the history, the what if, the interesting could have been. And I don't even think him, although he read it with sort of a see-through agenda, I think he too did not care for Rise of Skywalker, and he kind of had this attitude about how it could have been this. I think he still recognized it as an interesting what if, but it's not the real story. So it's fun to look at, and it's fun to take points away. And I definitely think there are things, like Lacey was saying, that I'm like, that's better on paper, that's
Sure.
better. But there are things in it too that are like, I'm sure that ultimately some of the weird stuff would have turned real weird, and some of the good stuff would have been okay,
Right.
and maybe, I don't know, it just would have probably turned out in similar fashion as like the Rise of Skywalker. Like, it's good. It's not amazingly great, perfect ending. It's good. I liked it.
Right.
That's fair. John, final thoughts on Trevorrow? As someone who really doesn't like the Rise of Skywalker. So
I don't say I don't like it. I just say it's okay. I'd say it's okay.
it's a B minus.
good.
or
Which
whatever.
one's your favorite in the series?
Oh,
That's a good
TFA.
question.
TFA.
Yeah.
hands
Mine's,
down.
my favorite's TFA.
I mean, I put on TFA when I'm cleaning the apartment. Like, I don't.
Me too.
Like, TFA is just great background music. It's such a happy, fun, joyful
Hopeful.
film. Yeah,
You
You
hopeful.
so
remember
much in
where
common.
the trilogy's on its way?
Yeah, you're like, oh my god, I can't wait to see the second, and then you're like this in the second one. At least I was. But here's what I'll
Who's
say.
DJ again?
I did like the Holdo move. I did like that.
Good move. 1 in a million.
Yeah, and by the way, Rose should have taken over for Leia. It shouldn't have been Poe and Finn. That was dumb. In my opinion, the Trevorrow script is interesting, fun fan service. Or I'm not fan service. What do you call it? Fan fiction to think about the possibility of all this. What could have been interesting? What could have been fun? And clearly, he knows his Star Wars, and that's one of the positives of reading the script. It's clearly someone who understood this franchise and understood the history of this franchise and the
But
characters.
there's Mortis in there,
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that was brilliant. So there's some of that was what got me happy about that there are people who understand it at that level and who still want to create something from that. But at the end of the day, I always come back to this. The guy doesn't have a good track record recently as a director. So what do I think the end result would have been? I don't think it would have been overall positive when it was all said and done, because once again, you can look at Jurassic World and go, I can explain to you Jurassic World and get you really excited, but look at the execution and you go, yeah, maybe not so much. So there's a real possibility that Trevorrow would have had this incredible script and absolutely done a worse film than Rise of Skywalker. There's certainly a possibility that could exist. So, but this is fun to think about. It's all fun to talk about. But at the end of the day, the reality is Rise of Skywalker is what we actually have.
Yeah. And what you said before about pitching 9 based on JJ's script and how that could come across as maybe better than even fans who didn't like The Rise of Skywalker would have heard that and said, ooh, that sounds good. So you're right.
Yeah.
This is really just a pitch and it's a script and that's all it is.
So you're saying you don't want Star Wars Fallen Kingdom?
No, yeah, I do not. It's funny, like I almost I didn't want to stoke the flames too much because I think people do like Jurassic World, but I tweeted the Jeff Goldblum looking at a pile of crap, but then also Zach Braff, what's his name? Chris Pratt running away from the volcano saying run. That's me like running away from Trevorrow's script. But I think where you see, because I did read some of the versions post Carrie dying, the changes they made. I think anyone making episode 9 was massively impacted by her death because it was supposed to be her movie, and you see big spots in his original draft where Leia was a really big presence in that script, and then you read his other version, like Finn gets those lines, or Lando gets those lines, or someone else gets those lines.
She went to go see Lando in one of the versions.
Yeah, so her void is going to hurt anybody who was in that. So that's one thing. James, it looks like you're burning over there. Well, unmute your mic first and then we'll have a chat.
Oh yeah, sorry, I had a cough earlier.
Good.
That's the thing is I know we had our final thoughts, but I wanted to say it because I've been thinking about it a lot. Is JJ and Trevorrow at post Carrie's death, all that stuff. There's only two ways to handle it, in my opinion. I've thought about it a little bit and came up with, you either write your movie and try to fit her in or cut her out, or you start with what you have and try to reverse engineer a story. And I think neither way is a great way to end episode 9 or in the Star Wars saga. And I think that's all you have. That's the only way to do it. You either wedge her in where you think maybe she could fit and it's not really going to work, or you reverse engineer around her, and it's also probably not going to be as good as it could have been had you just told a straight story.
Yeah. So, I mean, either way, I think anyone was hurt by her passing. They said from the beginning, I think it was supposed to be Han, then Luke, then Leia. So that hurts whoever makes that movie. And I thought JJ and ILM did a knockout job. I thought Leia had her biggest impact in episode 9 out of the 3 movies. So how they pulled that off was great. But Trevorrow-wise, I think, the Filoni nerds and people who like the animation and those stories and Rebel or Clone Wars are obviously going to say, well, Trevorrow was our guy. We wish he made the movie and he would have connected everything. We spend all this money on these comics and these books, and JJ said it meant nothing, and I get that too. But at the end of the day, they're making movies for all Star Wars fans, not just the diehards. And I think Trevorrow may have lost some fans with some of the decisions he made, even though it might have been a little weirder than what JJ did. But JJ was trying to round it out and close it out and land the plane. And I think Trevorrow would have landed a plane that was on fire, like at the end of Air Force One or something like that. So
he would have landed it, just had to flip it upside down.
Flip it upside down, have a creature
thing,
come out, almost bite it in half. Yeah, all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, that's it. Hopefully we never have to talk about Trevorrow ever again. And then we can move on.
Can I ask one question?
Is it how dare you?
No.
Oh.
Roka,
Yo.
who do you think leaked it?
Ooh. Well, now that I'm not beholden to an outlet, except my own.
Because to me, this reeks very Ryan Reynolds, like, oh, you don't want to do Deadpool?
Yeah, you think Trevorrow leaked it?
Yeah.
I think so too. And I think Robert is surprisingly connected to a lot of important people in this town. Despite his histrionics and his weirdness, Robert has a lot of connections in this town. And they're old school connections. There are people who've been in this town for 20 or 30 years.
Right.
So there are connections throughout. And so I would not be surprised, because he was dropping some Marvel stuff to me a year before I saw it. A year.
Really?
Yeah, right when he was on Heroes with Schnepp and I was producing the show, Burnett would occasionally pull me aside and say, I heard this. Do you care about this? Spoilers or anything? I was like, no. And he'd tell me, and a year later it would show up. And I was just like, wow. So to me, he's got these connections. He knows these things. He saw Aquaman 8 months before, or 6 months before it even came out. So he's got these abilities to get in. So it would not surprise me that Trevorrow or someone related to Trevorrow leaked it with Trevorrow's permission and got
what's
Robert
the move
on
there?
board to talk about it. Huh?
Do you think that's a proverbial middle finger to Lucasfilm? Or
I don't.
no?
I don't.
Okay.
I think this town is about saving your career and saving face. Right? He's about to go do this third Jurassic World film, and he hasn't had a lot of success in the last 2 films he's done. So he sensed maybe the anger and remember, this came out after the receptions and the reactions to episode 9. So this was fertile ground for him to walk in and kind of redeem his status a little bit or save a little face by saying, look what I could have done. Look how great this could have been. And now those of us who are, some fans who are not maybe as rational or whatever would be like, oh yeah, see, he could have been great. Now I'm excited to see what his Jurassic World's going to be. What's he going to do with this? Maybe he's coming back now more motivated. So don't ever take anybody at their word in this town. Don't ever think everybody has like these altruistic purposes. No, I think everybody understands you got to, and let me tell you from my personal experience, what I just went through, people can be ruthless to maintain their status of what they want to be and the level they want to keep. And so that can be, that could have been there behind Trevorrow. So that's my long-winded answer. I think he did drop.
I also think it could be something along the lines of that, in addition to if he is as big of a fan as he is about Star Wars, you write a Star Wars script in the day and age of leaking, you're like, hey, I got nothing to lose.
Right.
I almost did a Star Wars movie, because you've seen all these other scenarios where things have gone bad, like Lord and Miller and all these other things. Like, imagine you're just like, you know what? Why not? Like,
yeah. Well, and also down the road, if someone else slides in and Kathleen Kennedy moves off the franchise, let's say Feige down the road, Feige handing Trevorrow a Star Wars film now after the leak doesn't look bad. It makes people excited. So it's smart play all around.
it just seems like Ryan Reynolds to me. Like, where they're like, no, we're not doing this movie. And then he's been like, very like, I don't know who leaked it. Wink.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how it got out. Wink. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to the reception of the film. Mixed by critics, liked by most audiences, pockets of fandom that really didn't like it. If it was 98 on Rotten Tomatoes, probably whoever leaked that, whoever you are out there, probably keeping that one in the safe. So, yeah. All right. So that rounds it out for our talk about Trevorrow's script. Let us know in the comments what you guys think about it. If you read it, if you didn't, it doesn't change anything. Ultimately, like John, you said, we got the movie we got, and that is it. Trevorrow's script is not canon. So, all right.
Or is it?
Or is it? All right. So now let's take some questions in Ask the Resistance.
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
You guys tweet at us, or if you're a patron, you get the the Lightspeed skip to the front here. We have a few in here that take that. But Lacey, we're going to start with you. You ready?
Yes.
Okay, so this one's going to you from Blogga the Hutt, a oft commenter of ours. How are you, Blogga?
Hey, Blogga.
They said Palpatine talked about Ben and Rey's dyad as something not seen for a long time. Do you think this is setting up Old Republic films with two characters that have a strong Force connection as well?
So first of all, I love this question. Second of all, that line was kind of a throwaway for me in this movie, where they were like, oh, here's this important term that you should remember. Never mind, he's dead. So I feel like this is something that like they threw in there that they were like, oh, some fans might get it, but the normal person wouldn't. That being said, I think it would be super cool to have this in the Old Republic, High Republic, whatever movies are coming. It would be super cool to see this because we haven't seen it yet, really. A good Force bond, Force connection. But what's been written kind of about Force bond, Force connections is that it's like two people that are so connected that if one dies, it's like an open wound and like all this other stuff. So
get Pacific Rim out of here.
Anyway, long story short, I think they kind of threw it into the Rise of Skywalker, but I do think it opens the possibilities. And I don't think it necessarily has to be a guy-girl romantic relationship. It might be cool if it was like an Anakin Kenobi, very connected brotherly relationship too, or sisterly, two girls. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I'm saying it could just be really cool if two people worked together with the Force to fight bad guys.
Yeah. And I think, didn't Kylo Ren say it's been centuries or something like that? Like, wasn't he specific with a time frame?
Yeah, again, I feel like some of these lines in the like get lost.
I'm just saying.
I gotta re-see it.
I think that was Palpatine that said not seen in Jedi or in anyone for centuries or something. Which,
and then the story comes out.
I just have to remind I have to remind myself that there are people that see these movies, like my coworkers, that don't know Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
And if I was to say that to them, they'd be like, "What? What are you talking about?"
No,
shut up, nerd. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's funny. Like my brother saw the movie with us, but he had sat by himself a few rows up. And then he's walking down after the movie, and I just look down the aisle to see if he's going to like it or not, whether we're going to fight for the next year. And he just goes... And sometimes he gave up 2 thumbs up, and sometimes it's just that simple. But that's a good answer, Lacey. I dig that. All right, John, this one's going to you. Oh. This is from another John here. So we got the trinity of Johns here. Our patron General Beard, we call him, John Reese at John S. Reese. He's actually been trying to get us to talk about this in the podcast, so we may have to have a discussion about it in the future too. But now we're going to get your take on it, Mr. Roca. John asked, with your opinion on the dark side of the Force, assume Padme chose to stay with Anakin and lead the galaxy as he asked. Would he have eventually still killed her or done her harm due to his corruption? Or would the galaxy have been forever changed, plunged further into darkness if she joined him?
That's a great question. If she joins him, does she go Dark Rey or does she stay Rey as she is?
Padme.
Padme joining.
Oh, sorry. Padme goes with Anakin, right?
Yes.
But that's the same question. Does Padme go evil or does she stay who she is?
I guess she joins him on rules by his hand.
Okay, well, this is what
I assume she's evil.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
I assume she turns blind eye to it and lets him do what he needs to do to rule.
Yeah, she's not force sensitive, but she just joins him and accepts his new empire.
Look at him when he comes back after he kills the younglings, right? He's still talking to her like, I need you. Don't leave me. Stay with me. Mm-hmm. So if she goes with him, I think she guides him in a better way. And maybe he's not as evil. Maybe he's a better leader of the galaxy. And maybe it's not as crazy. And then it comes to the final battle, which is him with Sidious and her. So that would be the thing at the end. Because, I mean, if she births force-sensitive kids, could she have had some force sensitivity of her own? Does that come out in a latent way while she's with him? And then you have this whole situation of, well, does he choose Sidious or does he choose her? Remember, and this is what look, people get mad at me about this, but this is I actually believe this. He's not Vader until Padme dies. He's not Vader until Padme dies.
I'm with you there.
His last connection to humanity, to love, is Padme. Once the Emperor whispers in his ear, she's dead, he's fully clothed as Vader and he screams that terrible no. But that's him fully accepting the fact that he is evil now. And that's why he can kill with impunity, because he loves no one else. He's only ever loved her. And to have her leave him because of what he thinks the Jedi did, he can fully evil. But if Padme is there, I think Padme finds a way to help him rule better. Because the thing with Anakin is he's decisive. She can make him a better leader, a more compassionate leader down the road. And then eventually he'll either have to kill Sidious or kill her. And that's the thing at the end of the day.
I think she's also a survivor, though, because the concept art, she had a knife. She was going to kill him. Yeah. So,
Yikes.
Good point.
Well, we'll have to address this in a question of our own, then, because John's been asking us. But that's a good answer, John. I like that. I like that almost parallel with Luke, Vader, and Palpatine, but you have Anakin with his wife. That's cool. So thanks for that. And thanks for General Beard for the question. All right. James, this one's for you, buddy. This is from Shuldog at JShuldog. I don't know why I said that in that accent, but hey, Shuldog, how you doing? He said, or she said, we got R2 with us. If the next Star Wars movies take place during the High Republic with new to us Jedi, do you think we will see new lightsabers, specifically new colors? Any idea on that?
Mine's a simple answer. I think this is pretty straightforward. Do I or do I not think that? Yes, I do think that. I think that they're always going to bring in the new. I think that they're going to do some weird stuff, kind of like what they did with Kylo Ren, as far as him being like a medieval broadsword. Like they're going to do weird stuff with like a trident lightsaber or something. I mean, it just seems kind of logical. It's like a straightforward answer. As far as color, I think so. I think this is a good opportunity to bring in the Knights or the Protectors, which would be like the yellow color, which we haven't seen in a movie. I also think that if my random vague knowledge of Legends is true, some of that orange color I think goes back to some stuff like what they were doing back in Old Republic as well. And we haven't really seen like an orange, although Rey's is kind of goldish. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. So it'd be interesting. But also, too, even if they did do exactly Rey's color, it would be cool to see like what that color means and what kind of figures hold that color. And then it just kind of paints a bigger picture for when we finally get to that point where she turns it on and she's that color. It's very reminiscent of this new yet old franchise. So, I would say yellow and orange.
I like the idea of the tridents and all different types of weapons, and I'm sure
it's like Aquaman, but it's just like a lightsaber. I'm
sure Hasbro loves it too. All right, I'll grab this next one from Damon Taylor at Rubicante86, and they asked, would you like to see a What If series on Disney Plus, like they are doing with Marvel? Such as what if Leia was trained instead of Luke? What if Anakin beat Obi-Wan on Mustafar? Or what if Padme survived? First thing I'll bring up is the last Star Wars game I ever played was Episode 3. and the like ending at the end, if you play as Anakin and he kills Obi-Wan and becomes Darth Vader without the scars and stuff. It's the weird ending to episode 3. It's an odd ending to that PS2 game, but I would not like this for obvious reasons. We already as fans have our groups and our cliques and our theories and our preconceived notions. If you start creating actual tangible series of what ifs, it's going to blur the lines of canon for people who can't compartmentalize things, and it's going to make things even worse. So I think if they made a what if series where they just all of a sudden show an animated series where Luke is staying on Tatooine and Leia's the one trained, people are going to be like, wait a minute, now that should have been it, and that's that. And I just think it's already a fandom that's so mixed up with different emotions and feelings and ties to things that I think it would really mess things up. So it's a cool idea, and I guess if Marvel's doing it, that makes sense because the comics are always changing things and rebooting things and time machines and different versions of the Flash and all that, and I get that. Star Wars is a little different to me. I think
Flash is DC.
Yeah, that's why I laughed.
Well, yeah. Whoever, multiple Hulks, multiple.
You're
whatevers.
not wrong, dude. It's all one universe.
It's all the same stuff. Yeah. So, but you're right. Flash is DC. But you get my point, and
You're welcome.
I don't think that would be a good way to go, Damon. But I appreciate the question. All right, now our last question for all of us to take briefly. We'll go around here one at a time. Carl Stair at Darth Hurricane said, what is your biggest hope and your biggest fear for the future of the Star Wars franchise? Now that the Star Wars saga is
Just
over,
a quick, easy one.
because of that grown. Actually, I'll start with this one. My biggest fear is that they distance themselves too far from what George Lucas wanted this thing to be, which is a fun space fantasy, morality tale for kids and that sort of thing. I hope my fear is that they get too sci-fi with Star Wars and it loses its charm. So that's mine. You groaned the most, John Roca, so I'll go with you. What's your biggest hope or fear for the future of Star Wars?
It says and.
Hope
and fear.
Yeah.
Greatest hope is that people who actually love it are the people making it and writing it and creating it. That's my greatest hope. I think this time around that 100% wasn't the case, and it showed. And I think Star Wars is a tightrope you have to walk because people have such incredible love for it, and you have to walk it correctly, or else when you fall, it's really noticeable for a lot of people. So that's what my hope is that more and more people now are inspired to go be a part of this Star Wars and write this Star Wars because they are excited to be a part of it. My greatest fear is that people get in charge who are afraid to take chances with this property and with this franchise. As much as Last Jedi might have angered some Star Wars fans, it also excited and inspired and attracted Star Wars fans and non-Star Wars fans to the movie because of the chances it took. Mandalorian takes some chances. But that's really important for me overall for any franchise to survive. It has to take chances. And I want that to be something that goes hand in hand with whatever they create in the future with Star Wars. So that would be my greatest fear, is that they play it safe all the time. And some of the big arguments people have about Episode 9 who didn't like it are the fan service actually stuff that they try to do, the safe stuff they try to do. I want them to keep taking chances. And if they don't, I think it'll eventually lose its power and lose its weight with a lot of people.
Right on. All right. James, what about you? Greatest hope, greatest fear, future of Star Wars.
It's the same on both ends. So my greatest hope is, similar to Marvel, actually, is this whole thing just got wrapped up. I hope that people... And this ties in with my fear. I hope they don't just go, I saw it all. That's it for me. I'm not interested in getting wrapped up. I was interested in maybe finishing it out, but I'm not looking to do all that again. That's my biggest fear, that people are just going to see 1 through 9 as that was the story, and now all this other stuff is just bonus whatever, and they don't embrace it. Kind of like Harry Potter too, right? That kind of happened. It's like, hey, this was the story. I'm down to go see these last ones. But then they come out with another one, and the fan base just kind of goes, you know what? I don't know that I'm interested in seeing a story that isn't that story. That's my greatest fear. And then my greatest hope is like, what if Fantastic Beasts was like massively embraced by the fans? That would be great, you know? Same for Marvel. Just finished up with Infinity War and Endgame. I hope people buy into Doctor Strange 2 and, you know, all the Marvel shows. And I hope they embrace the new phase of what they're doing, or the new saga that they're getting ready to present, because it could be really cool. The last one was great, and let's do it again. I'm back on the roller coaster. So that's my fear and hope.
Right on. Lacey.
So, side note really quick, I wrote an article once about the new Harry Potter series without Harry, and the title of the article was Mo Money, No Harry.
What?
Yeah,
That
Like
is,
mo money, mo problems,
That's
but
a side
no
note.
Harry?
Yeah, Mo
Okay.
Money, No Harry.
can we put
Okay.
a link to that article in the description of the video?
No. All right. Biggest hope is that whatever new series, trilogy, whatever that's coming, we get a bad guy that's a genuine bad guy that we can all collectively hate. Give me a gross, disgusting bad guy, please.
Thank you.
Biggest fear is that they're going to fall back on characters that we know because they're too afraid to push boundaries and make new people. So I don't need to see Yoda. I don't need to see Kenobi, unless it's a Kenobi series, obviously.
I was
Just
gonna say,
go
you're gonna see
new.
Kenobi.
I'm talking with the new series that's like 400 years.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to hear or see people that I've seen or heard of before. Like, it's okay to take a step outside the box,
Sure.
outside the circle. But please just give me a really bad guy.
Yep.
Like Thanos, like someone that like everybody hates.
Just because you're a bad guy does not mean you're a bad guy.
It's a good reference. I was going to go with the Billy Irish thing.
So I forgot to do my biggest hope, and my biggest hope is make Solo 2 happen.
Oh,
Hey.
there you go.
Oh,
Disney Plus, baby. Disney Plus. At this
yikes!
point.
John's like not commenting on that one.
All right, we're gonna
Wait,
mute.
hold on. We haven't talked to you since that happened, Roka.
Which one? Which one?
Roka.
Yeah.
Make Solo 2 happen. We haven't spoken to you. Thoughts?
What about it?
Do you want it to happen?
Oh,
He doesn't sound like he wants it to happen.
yeah. If you're gonna give me what I got with Solo, then no, I don't want to necessarily see it happen. I wasn't a fan of Solo. Not that it was a bad movie. I didn't think it was a bad movie. My problem with Solo was that it wasn't an exciting, magical movie that I was hoping to get for Han Solo, and I think it didn't bring him to life in a way that I was hoping for. And if I'm mad about the characters you're killing off more than characters you've left alive, that's not a good thing. In my opinion, that's not a good thing. And so that was a frustrating part for me. But there is seeds, Emphasis Nest. There's a lot of seeds here. The Maul stuff, of course, Kira. There's a lot of stuff to play with if you were going to make one. I just think I'd have to see an incredible director step in to do it. And we'll see down the road.
Not to make it go too long, but follow up to that too. The Han and Solo 2 Disney Plus show. Would you be interested in that?
Han and Solo? What do you mean?
Han and Chewie, like
Han and Chewie.
the Solo 2.
That would be great. I'd love to see Han and Chewie adventures.
Working for Jabba and all that
of
sort of stuff. Get Boba Fett in there, and
Baby
that's
Jabba.
what we're talking about.
I'm down with Baby Jabba. Come on, let's make it happen.
Baby Jabba.
Baby
I'm all about Baby Jabba.
We've already seen it.
Well, we
Just
all
Muppet babies, just
we-
with characters.
We all know
Wait.
the reason why.
Star Wars.
The real reason why John doesn't like Solo is because it was a Western, and
One stupid word, and my life's been a living hell ever since. Not only a Western. Ugh. Don't tweet at 7 in the morning, folks. Don't tweet at 7 in the morning.
it's
I
good
woke
to
up
have
that
fun about
second.
stuff like that, though.
Yeah. And also, Lacey, do we need to clarify what happened between us? Can we do that before I leave?
Sure.
Our
Go
Raylo
ahead.
fight, which that was madness that day. You know, that was one of the best days I've ever had in my career, and yet it turned. And I don't mean because of that. I mean
All
because
I know is that there was a point in the day that you were like, I'm a comedian. I get paid to do jokes.
no, I didn't say any of that. I said I was making a joke. I really was making a joke, and it clearly was
jeez.
the worst joke to make because I had no idea people were going to be so upset about it. And I thought I was coming back, but then, like when I rewatched it, and Christian talked to me about it too. He was like, "Why did you do it that way? You should have presented her." And obviously, I was feeling myself a little too much on council. I was trying to make the joke, and it just fell flat, and people got really upset. And I had no idea the Reylo shippers were this powerful and this upset.
Take your cowboy hat off. No one cares.
It was oh yeah, fair point. That's what she was talking about. Oh, that's what you're referencing. All right.
I think what may have sunk your ship.
I want to say one thing. And I'm not a misogynist. I got accused of that so much. And I was just like, I'm just making a joke, and clearly it was the bad joke. So sorry, go ahead, John.
No, I was gonna say I think the part that may have sunk your ship is when you did the hands on the hip part.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would you say that?
Once again, sometimes I'm feeling myself acting the fool, and I thought it was in playful because we were going back and forth.
Yeah.
Yes,
Lacey
we were on Twitter,
on
and
Twitter.
then everybody just took it. And then I was in a position that I was like, if I say something, then I'm not a supportive woman anymore. And then if I don't say something, then I'm a scumbag. So I was really just in a corner.
Yeah, well,
I didn't know what to do.
So was I, because I kept trying to tell people I was just joking. But people were really upset about it.
Oh, jeez. It's all good, guys. We're all friends. Let's just be nice to each other.
Right.
And I think the funniest part about that, knowing Lacey, she doesn't, like, Lacey's like a Leia where she's like, I don't need you to stand up for me. So when people were chiming in, Lacey's probably just like, guys, I got this, you know? But,
It was driving me bananas.
well, see, now we could all hold hands like 3PO and Poe and everything, and that'll be good. All right. So that takes us towards the end here. I want to thank everyone for listening and watching, being a part of the Resistance. Make sure you are subscribed to us on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, and YouTube. Anywhere else you get your podcasts, hit us up with a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts if you haven't yet. We appreciate that. And always share our stuff, because a lot of people don't know about Star Wars podcasts, believe it or not. So share it, and we appreciate that. Make sure you're also going to StarWarsNewsNet.com every day for your latest Star Wars news, reviews, editorials, information, and more. Let's get our plugs out of the way now. You guys can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey and over at Star Wars Newsnet. James, how about you?
Twitter and Instagram at Meyer Trunks. Great 1 hour and 30-minute episode, guys. Had a lot of fun.
Nice. Lacey.
People can find me making jokes and not taking anything too seriously at Lacey Gillerin on Twitter and Instagram.
Right on. John, you have a new channel now. You're
I
on
do.
other networks.
Yeah.
You used to be at the other place, but now just to let people, our listeners and viewers, know where you're at these days and all that stuff, fire away.
Yeah, definitely. You can find me at The Roca Says on Twitter and on Instagram. And all my stuff now is on my YouTube channel. That's www.youtube.com/John Roca Says. They wouldn't give me The Roca Says, so I had to take the next best thing. But it's part of it. It's part of the Outlaw Nation outlet that I'm creating, and there will be a lot of programming coming down the pike. I'm going to have mornings with the Outlaw, live streams at 8:30 in the morning every morning, talking about the entertainment news, whatever's going on. Going to have other stuff coming down. Got a wrestling show that I'm working on. Got a sports show I'm working on. And a lot of publicists are reaching back out to me to invite me to junkets and screenings and set visits. So all the coverage that I was doing
On your own,
at Collider, I'll now be able to do on my own. I don't have to stand in line behind anybody, which is really what's exciting for me, is being able to do all this stuff and report on it to the fans. So please, and come follow me on all my stuff and come subscribe to the YouTube channel. Trust me, it's worth it. And there will be a Star Wars show coming down the pike. It'll be about the philosophy of Star Wars. That's my thing. I can't compete with you three in knowledge of planets and characters and all this stuff. But what I really feel I'm good at is talking about the philosophy and the concepts that are presented in Star Wars. Those are the things that really turn me on the most about the franchise. And I was just on Riley's Cantina, the debut episode, and we talked about a lot of that on there as well. So look for that coming down the pike. A lot of things in my mind.
Awesome, I'm excited about that, John. It's nice that now that you don't have the corporation, you're going to be able to say what you really think.
That's been the thing holding me back, right?
You didn't already.
Yeah.
What is that like when you take the governor off that car?
I hope you will be guests once I get it up and running. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Nice, man. Well, yeah. I mean, you're a good dude. You've always been good to us. We always had a good relationship with you.
I love you guys.
So we'd love to have you back on sometime and all that stuff. Good luck and congrats on that.
Thank you.
And then for us, we do have to thank the people that make our stuff happen. And if you do want to support us, go to patreon.com/resistance broadcast. We have 5 tiers starting at $2 a month. All our extra stuff that you see on our channel and beyond our 2 episodes a week are because of you folks. So thank you so much. And a special thanks to our Patreon generals. One of them you just heard from in the question section there, but Carmelo, Brian Shalito, Andrew Staley, Neil Lowry, Jeremy Myers, Neil Shaw, David Probus, John Reese, JG Carr, Seth Kime, Micah Harrison, Tampa Movie Guy, Michael Gaines, and Val Trichkoff. Thank you guys so much for all your support. All right, you guys, hope you enjoy your weekends. We will be back, as always, on Monday morning. So take care, and until next time, we'll see you on the Resistance broadcast. See you around, kids.